Everyone thinks a tsunami is just a big wave. Wrong. That's the biggest lie you've ever believed about the ocean. The truth is, tsunamis aren't loud monsters announcing their arrival. They're silent killers racing across oceans at over 500 miles per hour without anyone noticing. Now, picture this. You're on a paradise beach, enjoying the sun, when suddenly the sea pulls back. Tourists take photos, kids play in the sand, and no one realizes this beauty is the last warning before chaos. Minutes later, a wall of water with the force of a nuclear bomb swallows everything. It's fast, it's brutal, it's real. And here's the counterintuitive part. It's not the wave's initial height that matters. The real deadly secret is hidden in physics and the slow dance of tectonic plates, working for centuries to change the fate of entire cities in just seconds. Want to know why even technology can't stop this force? Then get ready, because what you're about to discover could change the way you see the planet forever. Have you ever realized that the greatest threats often make no noise? A tsunami is exactly that, a silent predator crossing the ocean without raising suspicion. Out there, in the middle of the sea, these massive waves can travel thousands of miles per hour, almost as fast as a commercial jet, and still go unnoticed. It sounds like a lie, but it's the raw truth. A natural disaster could be on its way, and no one would know. And why does this happen? The explanation lies in physics. When an underwater earthquake occurs, it displaces an enormous amount of water. But in deep waters, that energy spreads out, and the wave's height is tiny, almost invisible to the naked eye. Imagine being on a ship in the Pacific, everything looking calm, while a colossal force moves beneath you. Terrifying, isn't it? Now think about this. If you were in the open ocean and saw calm waters, you'd never guess an entire city could be wiped out in just a few hours. That's where the danger lies. A tsunami is like a sleeping giant, waiting for the right moment to unleash its fury. And when it reaches the shore, that's when the story changes completely. Want to know why this meeting with the coast changes everything? Get ready, because this is where physics becomes relentless and the consequences brutally real. When a tsunami approaches the coast, the game changes completely. The water depth begins to drop, forcing all the energy accumulated in the open ocean upward. It's like trying to pour an entire river into a glass. It doesn't fit, and the pressure builds until it explodes into massive waves. At this point, physics shows no mercy. Want an example? Imagine a subtle wave, only 3 feet high in the middle of the Pacific, transforming into a monstrous form as it nears the shore, reaching 30, 50, or even 100 feet in height. This isn't fiction, it's reality. And when that wall of water hits the coast, it takes everything with it. Cars, houses, even entire buildings. Nothing seems capable of stopping it. And you know what's worse? This increase doesn't happen gradually, it's a brutal leap. The speed may drop, but the wave's power grows in a terrifying way. It's like watching a giant suddenly rise, ready to crush everything in its path. And those who don't understand this dynamic are often the first victims of the disaster. But hold on, there's something even more brutal behind this transformation, a phenomenon called shoaling. Want to know why it's the key piece in this catastrophe? Buckle up, because things are about to get truly unsettling. Shoaling is the hidden villain that turns a tsunami into an unstoppable beast. When the water depth decreases, the wave speed drops drastically. But the energy, it stays the same and touched. The result, the wave has to grow to carry all that force, like a body swelling with rage. This is when 3 feet in the open ocean become 50 feet at the shore. Think about a garden hosea on a catastrophic scale. The difference is, instead of watering plants, this power rips out trees, sweeps away cars, and demolishes buildings, all of it in seconds. Now imagine standing on the beach, watching that wall of water closing in. It's not a simple wave breaking for surfers, it's a liquid avalanche pushing tons of debris. Many people don't run because they don't understand what's coming. If they did, they drop everything and run without looking back. And the most disturbing part, this isn't the end of the dark spectacle. Because behind this ruthless physics lies an even more terrifying origin, the slow yet deadly dance of tectonic plates. Want to know how imperceptible movements can unleash unimaginable chaos? Stay with me, because now we're diving into the Earth's core. Beneath our feet, there's a silent show that never stops. Tectonic plates move, collide, and slide like sleeping giants shifting positions. This dance seems slow, just centimeters per year, but it carries unimaginable power. When they decide to release that stored energy, the result is devastating, an underwater earthquake capable of triggering a tsunami. Picture two plates locked together, like springs compressed for centuries. Suddenly, they snap, unleashing energy equivalent to thousands of nuclear bombs. All of this happens in seconds as the seafloor shifts violently, pushing millions of tons of water upward. It's the perfect trigger for massive waves to race across entire oceans. The most astonishing thing is that while we go about our daily lives, these forces are there in scene writing the script for the next natural disaster. There's no noise, no clear warning, just nature conspiring in the depths. And when it decides to act, no technology can stop that first wave. But do you know where this deadly choreography is most dangerous? In specific regions called subduction zones. Want to find out why these places are true underwater time bombs? Then get ready, because we're about to enter the most threatening territory on the planet. Subduction zones are like open wounds in the Earth's crust, hidden from sight. In these places, one tectonic plate dives beneath another, storing energy for centuries. It's like two plates locked in a silent tug of war until one suddenly lets go, and the entire planet feels the impact. Each of these zones could be the birthplace of the next historic tsunami. Want some examples? The famous Mariana Trench in the Pacific is one of these extreme tension zones. There, the Pacific Plate and the Philippine Plate have been battling for millions of years. When pressure overcomes resistance, we get colossal underwater earthquakes like the one that generated the massive waves in 2004, devastating Indonesia. These regions aren't few, and most are near densely populated areas. Japan, Chile, Indonesia all know they live on top of ticking time bombs. The difference between life and death in these cases is understanding the risk and acting fast. But that's not always possible, because the speed at which it all unfolds leaves no room for hesitation. And speaking of speed, you can't imagine how fast a tsunami can cross an ocean. If you think an airplane is fast, wait until you see what one of these waves can do. Want to know the truth behind this? Then let's move on to the next revelation. Did you know a tsunami can cross the ocean faster than a commercial jet? That's right, while a Boeing 747 cruises at about 560 miles per hour, one of these waves can reach up to 600 miles per hour in deep water. It's as if nature were piloting an invisible jet, silently carrying a destructive force no one can see on the horizon. And here's what's even more intriguing. For anyone in the middle of the ocean, that speed is practically unnoticeable. The wave seems harmless, less than 3 feet high, gliding calmly beneath massive cargo ships. No foam, no warning, just a huge mass of stored energy heading straight for the coast. Now stop and imagine. As you read this, a wave could be racing across the Pacific without anyone knowing. That's why warning systems need to be extremely fast. Every minute counts when nature decides to show its power, but even then, there are limitations. Because in the end, it's not the speed that's most terrifying, it's what happens when that force reaches the shore. Want to discover the secret behind the giant waves that wipe out entire cities? Stay with me, because now we've reached the heart of the mystery. When people think of giant waves, they often picture something appearing out of nowhere, like in the movies. But the truth is, the secret lies in the energy packed into the wave's amplitude. All the force accumulated during thousands of miles of travel across the ocean gets compressed as the coastal depth decreases. It's like the entire ocean is pushing a single wall of water toward the land. Want an example to make it clear? Imagine a fully loaded truck barreling downhill without brakes. It starts slow but gains weight and momentum until nothing can stop it. That's exactly what happens with these massive waves. The energy that was spread out in the open ocean concentrates, creating a liquid wall that can reach 100 feet high or more. And this force isn't limited to water. It drags everything in its path: concrete, steel, trees, lives. That's why, even with seawalls and barriers, many cities can't withstand it. This power doesn't respect architecture, technology, or promises of safety. It simply plows through. But there's something even more deceptive about this story. Water doesn't behave the way you think. It doesn't rush toward the shore like a raging river, and that confuses a lot of people. Want to know why? Get ready, because the next part will challenge everything you think you know about how water moves. Most people believe that when a tsunami arrives, the water charges toward the coast like a furious river. But that's an illusion. In reality, the wave is a transfer of energy, not a massive displacement of water as imagined. Each particle of water simply oscillates, while the energy moves forward like a deadly message crossing the ocean. Want to see how treacherous this is? People on the beach see the sea recede and think, "Wow, that's interesting, I'll take a picture." That curiosity kills. The retreat is just part of the wave cycle, and when it comes back, it returns as a towering wall of water, carrying everything away. That's why tsunami can obliterate entire cities even without looking like a typical Hollywood wave. Now think about this. That gentle oscillation in the open ocean can travel thousands of miles without losing power. It's almost poetic if it weren't so tragic. A silent force, seemingly calm, carrying destruction in its DNA. Those who don't understand this dynamic underestimate the risk and pay the price. And do you know the one sign that can save lives when this great illusion fools every sense? It's a simple detail, but it can mean the difference between life and death. Let's talk about it now, because it's crucial that you never forget it. Few signs are as obvious and yet as often ignored as the sudden retreat of the sea. When the water runs away from the beach, leaving fish stranded on the sand, it's not a curious spectacle, it's a deadly warning. This happens because the first phase of the wave pulls water backward before hurling its destructive mass onto the shore. Those who recognize it have precious minutes to escape. Now, here's the harsh reality. This sign doesn't always appear. In some tsunamis, the first wave doesn't create a visible retreat, making the situation even more dangerous. That's what happened in parts of the areas struck by the 2011 disaster in Japan. People simply had no time because the wave arrived without giving any clue. Want a practical tip? If you're on a beach and feel an earthquake, even a mild one, run to higher ground without hesitation. Don't wait for alerts, and don't stay to watch up close. Tsunamis do not forgive curiosity. Every second is a chance to survive, and the decision must be instant. But you'll understand the importance of this even more when you learn about one of the most tragic episodes in recent history, the 2004 tsunami that forever changed the way the world views these ocean monsters. Let's talk about it now. On December 26, 2004, the planet witnessed one of the greatest natural disasters of modern history. A 9.1 magnitude underwater earthquake struck off the coast of Indonesia, releasing energy equivalent to 23,000 atomic bombs like the one dropped on Hiroshima. Within minutes, a tsunami was born and began its deadly journey across the Indian Ocean. The massive waves reached staggering speeds up to about 500 miles per hour in open water. When they hit the coast, they transformed into liquid walls over 100 feet high. Imagine being on a paradise beach and suddenly seeing a towering wall rushing toward you with no time to escape. That's what millions experienced that day. The outcome was devastating. More than 230,000 lives lost across 14 countries. Entire cities vanished from the map, and it all started with a silent movement deep in the ocean, where tectonic plates performed their deadly dance. Those who survived did so because they ran instinctively without waiting for alerts. But if you think we learned our lesson, get ready to hear about another event that proved even technology and human-built barriers can't stop the ocean's relentless power. And it happened in Japan in 2011. Japan has always been a global benchmark for disaster preparedness. Coastal barriers, warning systems, and regular drills were the nation's pride. But on March 11, 2011, all of that was put to the ultimate test when a 9.0 magnitude underwater earthquake struck the Tohoku region. What happened next proved that nature doesn't respect walls. The massive waves, powered by the shoaling effect, leapt over coastal defenses as if they were nothing more than sandcastles. In some areas, the barriers stood 30 feet high, but they were swallowed by tsunamis that reached over 130 feet. This colossal force obliterated entire cities, swept away trains, ships, and even nuclear reactors, triggering the Fukushima disaster. The most striking part, thousands of people believed they were safe behind those walls. That false sense of security cost lives, as many stayed behind, trusting technology to protect them. The illusion of safety turned fatal when faced with nature's raw, unrelenting power. But not all tsunamis are born from earthquakes. There are other hidden monsters waiting to catch humanity off guard, and they come from places you probably wouldn't expect. Want to know what they are? Get ready, because things are about to get even darker. When we think of a tsunami, the image that comes to mind is an underwater earthquake. But there are other lurking villains capable of triggering massive waves. One example, submarine volcanoes. When they erupt, they displace colossal volumes of water, creating a silent and unexpected natural disaster. The Tonga eruption in 2022 is living proof of this explosions, so powerful they generated waves that crossed entire oceans. Another overlooked risk is underwater landslides. Imagine an entire slope collapsing into the sea. That sudden displacement creates a tsunami with devastating power, even without a noticeable earthquake. And it doesn't stop there, even meteorites pose a threat. An impact in the ocean could unleash megatsunamis strong enough to reshape continents. These threats show there's no single scenario for chaos. Nature has more cards up its sleeve than we can predict. The problem is, because these events are less common, they don't get as much attention. But history is full of surprises, and they rarely announce themselves before they strike. Now, want to hear a myth that could cost lives? Many people believe the first wave of a tsunami is always the strongest, but that's far from the truth. Get ready, because this next revelation might change everything you thought you knew about tsunami safety. There's a dangerous myth that keeps circulating, the idea that the first wave is always the biggest. That's not true in many cases. The first wave is just the announcement of the disaster. The largest and most destructive waves often come later when people already think the danger has passed. That false sense of security is an open door to tragedy. Want a real example? During the 2011 Japan tsunami, the first wave caused damage, but it wasn't the worst. Minutes later, even higher waves struck the coast, catching many by surprise. People who had evacuated to safe areas returned to collect belongings and never came back. That fatal mistake cost thousands of lives. What makes this so dangerous is its unpredictability. The interval between waves can range from minutes to nearly an hour, and there's no fixed rule about which one will be the most destructive. That's why the guidance is clear. After the first wave, stay in a safe place until authorities confirm the danger is over. Now, faced with this uncertainty, you might be wondering, are warning systems really effective at saving lives? Let's uncover the truth behind these technologies and their limitations. When the ocean floor shifts and an underwater earthquake occurs, every second counts. That's when warning systems like dart buoys come into play. They're strategically placed across the oceans to detect changes in water pressure and transmit signals via satellite. In theory, this should provide enough time to evacuate at-risk areas, but reality tells a different story. The problem is that even with cutting-edge technology, failures occur. Transmission can be delayed, buoys may miss small initial variations, or even fail entirely due to lack of maintenance. And when it comes to tsunamis, minutes can mean thousands of lives lost. This is no game. Another major challenge is communication. Detecting a tsunami is one thing. Warning millions of people in time is a completely different story. In remote areas or regions with poor infrastructure, The message simply doesn't get through. And even when it does, some ignore the alerts, thinking it won't happen here. This deadly mix of blind confidence and technological delays is catastrophic. And if all of this already sounds alarming, get ready for the final revelation, a factor that's changing the rules of the game and could increase both the frequency and intensity of these disasters. Want to know what it is? Then come with me to the next part because it could impact the future of humanity. The 21st century has introduced a silent villain that could turn tsunamis into even greater threats: global warming. Rising Earth temperatures are melting glaciers and destabilizing massive ice blocks. When these colossal masses crash into the ocean, the displacement creates giant waves that can spread for hundreds of miles, hitting coastal regions without warning. But that's not all. Rising sea levels mean areas once considered safe are now vulnerable. Imagine coastal cities already struggling with high tides being hit by a tsunami with a few extra feet of advantage. It's like giving superpowers to an enemy that was already dangerous, and this equation is anything but favorable for us. And we can't forget another factor: tectonic plate instability. Melting ice changes the pressure on the Earth's crust, accelerating the movement of these plates. In other words, climate change can increase the frequency of underwater earthquakes, the primary trigger of giant waves. It's a domino effect that threatens our future. Now, after all this, the question is, are we truly prepared to face such an unpredictable scenario? The answer lies in the hands of those who know this information and understand how to act. Now, you know, a tsunami isn't just a giant wave, it's a deadly combination of invisible forces that can change everything in a matter of minutes. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you keep ignoring the signs or prepare so you're never caught off guard? Think about this. Would you recognize the signs of a tsunami if you were on a beach today? Would you know where to run? And more importantly, now that you understand how tectonic plates and global warming increase the risk, what do you think should be done to prevent future tragedies? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. And if this content opened your eyes to the ocean's hidden power, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications. Because in the next video, I'll reveal even more shocking secrets about how nature hides traps no one talks about, and you won't want to miss it.